Today's sponsor is Encore Live, Sarasota Bradenton's #1 destination for live entertainment. Christopher D. Corridino.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kurt.
A.k.a. Dino. Not Dino, but Dino.
No.
Tell us about that nickname, how you got that.
I was around 2 years old, and I have two sisters that have been arguing my entire life as to who came up with it first. My last name, Corridino, so they just started calling me Dino.
Nice Italian name, right?
Yes, sir.
Where were you born? What city? What town?
I was born in Norwich, Connecticut. I was there very shortly until my mom married a Marine, and I spent most of my my childhood going from base to base, and ended up in Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I stayed there about 10 years.
Did you like it there?
I did, because we stayed there long enough for me to develop friendships, and that I still have to this day. So I always will claim that Havelock, North Carolina is my home.
Yeah.
I graduated from Havelock High School. I have friends that as a matter of fact, I have a buddy up in Port St. Lucie that I've known since I was 12 years old. And he moved down here right around the same time I did. We were living so close to each other and didn't connect until the internet finally came around, and we were able to do the Facebook thing or whatever. However, he got in touch with me, and we started our friendship all over again. And just recently, I was his best man at his wedding. So it's very, very cool. And I love that place because I grew up on a military base, so we didn't have issues with a lot of social issues that a lot of, either urban schools or areas do, or, rural, I didn't have to deal with that. Everybody liked everybody.
Lots of sports back then.
There was the football team there was the focus. They were great. Our high school band was amazing. It was a rather large school. And at that time, they only had 10th, 11th, and 12th grade as high school, and then they had junior high school, and we were like the first class that actually ninth graders that would join the high school, and we were a very small class, and most classes were like 600 kids, each grade, and we were only like 250, maybe 300, so we were very tight. And we were picked on.
It was you guys against the world, right?
Yeah, it seemed like it. It seemed like it, and it was North Carolina. And it's a southern state, but it was so different because, Cherry Point was right next to Havelock. So it was a very military oriented community. A lot of military retired there. And you did have your locals and stuff like that, but it was awesome. So, but I left probably about a year after high school and joined the military myself. So.
Let's talk about early experiences with rock and roll and going up in North Carolina. What were you listening to? Was it a popular radio station? Were you collecting records?
Albums were big. And the person who got me into music at 2 years old was my Uncle John. Up in Connecticut. He's the first experience I had with music, and he sat me down with him, put my guitar over me like that. I was sitting with him, and he played me "Hey Jude." So like one of my first songs that I would run around singing was "Hey Jude," and
cool.
from that moment on, I always wanted a guitar. By age 10, I had one. My aunt. Pat got me into the Columbia records. You remember you'd get the Columbia records,
yeah, sure do.
like 10 free.
Yeah,
and then
man, for a penny or something.
She would send me, she go, I'm going to, send you an order form. It'll be coming in the mail. You pick out what you want, send it back to me. And she did that for years. So I started my album collection. And
what were some of those early ones? Do you remember the ones you had?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'll, just to preface that a little bit, my sister Cassie, she brought home a 16 magazine. It was a very popular magazine during that time, and Kiss was on the cover. And I was probably about, 8 or 9 when she brought that home, and I looked at it and I was like, what is this? what I mean, what is this? They look like cartoon characters. I love comic books. So it was immediately, and I was like, this is a band? And she's like, yeah. And then, so when I got that order form, I picked out Kiss records. And I think my first ones were Dress to Kill, Destroyer.
Love Gun.
No, not yet. It was still, I got that one as it came out without giving away my age. So those were, I think, my first two. And then I think I picked Elvis was one of my favorites because, the family liked him. So I picked out a greatest hits from Elvis. And then Judas Priest, British Steel, Rush 2112. That was a part of the first batch. Black Sabbath, the second one with Iron Man and Paranoid on it, and I'm forgetting the name of it, and everybody's gonna say you moron. But the second album there, and Zozo from Led Zeppelin. I think that was among my first.
As opposed to calling it Zeppelin 4, you call
yes,
it.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Zozo.
Only a fan would do that.
Yeah.
Well, those are great records, man. And I share a lot of that. You and I are similar age, and Kiss to me was just the most incredible thing. And to this day, I tell people, if you've never seen a Kiss concert live, and you probably won't, because I think they're done.
Yeah, maybe,
right? In their height, man, their shows were just so elaborate.
They were,
and nobody would ever come close to what they used to do, man.
Yep.
I mean, did you get a chance to experience some of those? My
first concert was at the Providence Civic Center. I think it was, it was February 2nd, 1977. And there was two shows, and my sister had ordered tickets, but it got sold out. And my sister, if you know her, she is a determined woman. And she complained, and I don't know what she did, but she got us front row tickets on the side.
Good for her.
For the third show in a row that they decided to do because, it was such a big demand for it. And then I went there and I was absolutely frightened. I'd never seen anything like that. And there was a military vet in a wheelchair that was right next to me. And he was smoking funny things. And my sister was saying, don't talk to him. And I was like, I'm scared. And he was like, don't worry about it. And I said, and he goes,
take a hit of this.
What? No. He goes, what are you scared of? I said, Gene Simmons. And he's like, what are you scared about? I'm like, he's evil. He spits blood and he breathes fire. He might come out and get me. He's like, and so he had to talk with me and calm me down.
Yeah, man.
And that was my first experience, and it was unbelievable. And I automatically attached to Ace Frehley. As soon as I saw the smoking guitar, I said, that's it. And he's been my guy ever since, and rest in peace. And he's the reason.
Were you collecting the records then? You were going to as many shows as you could. You maybe had some Kiss shirts.
I've been to I've gone to so many, but I got involved in music myself, bands and things like that by age 12 or 13. I had my first garage band. I played my first real gig by age 15.
Any Kiss covers back then?
Detroit Rock City. That was my first. And I love that. That's my favorite song from them. Always will be. And as a matter of fact, I just was able to bring it back in the bands that I'm in now.
That album is fantastic. I mean, that whoever produced that, like
Bob
that was Ezrin.
Yeah.
So they had like orchestra sounds in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got great expectations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man, such good stuff.
And Gene's voice at the end of that, how he hits those falsetto notes. He showed that early on, I believe. And like the first three albums, he showed that ability. And I've always like, wow. And then when they put out the 4 solo albums, there was a song on there that he did that with. And I was like, so I always admired his ability to be able to do that, and always wondered why he didn't really, sing better, because it was always kind of that certain, until A World Without Heroes came out, which, came from a flop album, according to that time. But it was actually kind of brilliant. And that was not Creatures of Night. That was The Elder. And A World Without Heroes, it finally showed his true singing voice, and I was like,
So a
wow.
lot of people don't talk about the songwriting between those two guys,
Mhm.
Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Everybody talks about, Keith and Mick and Lennon McCartney,
Yep.
and those are great songs, of course. And I'm not saying by any means am I putting Kiss in that same category, but if you look at their catalog and you look at some of the songs they wrote, man, some of the hits and some
Yeah.
of the hooks, man, that's quite impressive.
Yep. They tailored their lyrics and their music to the show. They didn't get too deep. They wanted people to, have a good time and
A lot of things about sex.
yeah.
I mean, that was the number one topic, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Put
Well,
the
we
X
all
in
know about
sex,
Gene
love
Simmons.
gun,
And Paul Stanley being the lover or whatever, yeah,
So fast forward now that you become an accomplished musician, right? You play a lot of music. Do you still have elements of that Kiss show that you want to give them? Like sometimes I say to my guys, we don't have enough lights, man. We need to get some fog, like what the fuck.
yes. Yes, I have visions, and if there's ever an opportunity to get to that place again, yes, I probably would do that. For a while, Carnival of Soul had a pretty cool thing going on. We had some mimes, and we had a guy, a bunch of clowns, and kind of like theatrics going on while we were playing, and that was a good era. But unfortunately, things change, people leave the band, and you have to start over. And
Can we talk about Carnival of Souls?
sure.
Okay, so that is it your baby, your project? Did you invent it? Are you like the ringmaster of Carnival of Souls?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I would
So
say that.
tell me the mindset behind it. Like how did it originate? What was the premise?
It really started with my first professional gigs, and I would say that was over in Germany when I was in the military. I somehow managed to get a group of guys together and write music, play a few covers, to connect those original songs, because people, if they don't know the song, you can either lose their attention, real quick if you just harp on that. So I've always kind of like mixed the two together, and it's always worked for me. Um, and having military guys in a band that had different schedules and things, it was kind of an accomplishment. And we managed to play like the NCO club, the enlisted club, and do some pretty cool things. Played for and this was over in Germany, in Frankfurt, and they had a football team there. And we played a show in front of about 20,000 people that were there for a fireworks display. It just ended up that we were playing music there, and having 20,000 people scream for you because it was unexpected. They didn't know we were going to be there. We didn't know that that whole stadium was going to get filled up with people, and it was a great experience. And from that moment on,
Was your PA loud enough, man? Did you have enough power?
barely, 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 but thank God, I think it reached just about the end of the stadium. And when I saw the fireworks go off after our last song and saw how many people were actually there, that was it.
A switch turned on.
Yep, switch turned on, and I said, I don't think I'm going to keep this as a career. I think I'm going to go into music. So I served 8 years, and then got out when I got stationed back to the States. I was stationed in Missouri. So I picked up where I left off. And it just so happened the drummer that I played over there with um, got out of the military, and he wanted to play music. So he moved to Missouri, and we started it again. And over in Germany, we were called Brainstorm, which was copywritten. Then we called ourselves Last Rites from 1990 to 1995. We released a CD that we recorded at a place called The Studio in Kansas City with a guy named Evan Smalley, and it was an epic record. He was a phenomenal musician. He played everything. So we had real cellos, real violins, flutes, every stringed instrument you can think of, and he would have me play things. Like, here's a mandolin, do something with it. And we'd listen to the basic tracks that we already recorded, and I was like, okay, and I'd figure things out, and I was able to play a lot of different instruments on that first album. And unfortunately, Last Rites was a copywritten name, so by the time that we released the first CD, we already printed thousands of them, and I got a cease and desist. And we got signed to a record label, and the record label was upset with that. and they gave us a 1 year, to start off with. That it was a 1 year trial, and we were scheduled to go on tour with Warrant, who was down here in Florida. Long story, we moved from Missouri to Florida during that time, right after the completion of that in '95. And when we got here, found out all the bad news, and couldn't reprint them. And so the record company dropped us. And at the same time, the drummer who'd been with me ever since Germany, he decided to go back to Missouri, where he had a girlfriend and stuff like that, and one of the other members. So lost half the members, and then we had to rebuild. So got some new guys in the band, and had to think of a name. And at that time in the early '90s, mid '90s, there was a DAT tape that was floating around of an album that Kiss was doing called Carnival of Souls, and I got a copy of that, and it was incredible because they were using some of the sounds that I just started really liking, like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. I was in a Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and that sound really, I embraced it because I was so tired of the hair metal and every guitar player having to play classically, trained guitar solos a million miles an hour, which I really didn't think I could do anyway because you know I wasn't that skilled. So when the landscape of music changed, I really liked it. I embraced it. I was young enough to really be a part of that, and it also changed my voice, the way I approach songs. It brought a little more darkness into my writing. Um, I don't mean like evil darkness. Just when you write about things, you usually write about what you've been through, and I always had issues with relationships and things like that because being a musician, and I didn't know how to have a relationship. When you're around a bunch of guys and you're playing all over the place, and to find somebody who would embrace what you do and embrace it so well that you wouldn't think about anything else, and they didn't know how to handle it either, so it never really worked. So I wrote about things like that, and I was always very political. I won't say on what landscape, but I wrote about things like that in my early years. I didn't like division. I didn't like things like that. I was, when you're raised with Kiss, it's all about, having a good time.
Yeah,
It's,
sure.
love everybody, and, don't, peace, not war. Not in a political way, but just in a, music is supposed to bring people together.
Are you still writing every day? Like, do you come up with ideas? Have a guitar nearby that you could just figure some stuff out?
I'll I wrote so much music from, I would say, age 16, 17 until probably 2016 to 18. And I kind of stopped because a lot of tragedy happened with my band during that time. Family, this was right before COVID. Um, so I kind of stopped writing. And I wrote so many songs, it was like a faucet I couldn't turn off. And I have so many songs that I'll never in my life be able to actually put all those songs out. And I had so many that I wrote and recorded that I never gave them the attention that they deserved. So I had to finally just turn that faucet off and start concentrating on the catalog that I
Sure,
had
sure.
and start learning
There might be
how.
some gems in there.
Yeah, and I had to learn how to market because I didn't know how, and the landscape of music
Did you
changed.
have a partner or somebody that had another set of ears that could listen to it in a different way and say, "Hey, man, you may not like this, but I think this is a hit." Like maybe there was somebody that could guide you a little bit in that process.
I'll be honest, I did things my way in almost kind of a selfish way for the longest time, um, and that's part of the reason I'm sure that you know I didn't become famous because I wouldn't compromise. It was going to be my way or no way, and in the 2000s, when my drummer at that time, his name was Jimmy Bones, James Argentino. He was a phenomenal guy. Um, he started really working on me and working on my um, attitude, the way I did things, and he started writing with me, and I would say probably around 2006, I met a keyboard player named Sean Bryan, who's still with us to this day, just lives further in the state. And so that's why when we get together, it has to be something very cool, very organized. But we wrote a lot together, and I learned how to share and be open to everybody's ideas. And when I did that, the music improved.
Don't you think it's just a maturation process? It's just
It
maturing
was.
as a person, maturing as a musician, evolving
Yes, it took me a
as a
long
musician,
time.
right?
Yeah, it took me a long time, and because I had, you know, I guess some talent, and I would always play music with friends that maybe weren't on that level, so I would invest in them, get them, to but it was always a controlled environment, and I think that if I would have gotten out of that mindset of this little circle that I got to keep it in, I would have surrounded myself with musicians that would have taught me earlier, would have matured me earlier, and I might have had a better chance at that time. But unfortunately, I was stubborn, and it took me a long time to get to that place.
So let's fast forward to today, right?
Mhm.
So now you got Carnival of Souls.
Still,
You have a new project. Tell us about the new project.
well, I'm in 3 bands. Carnival of Soul, when we changed the name in '97 because of the copyright thing, our second CD, third CD, fourth CD, all were Carnival of Soul. First one, Last Rites in '95. Um, I kind of I lost 3 band members in 2018-19.
Now, when you say you lost them, what does
They
that mean?
died.
So 3 members died, isn't
Yeah,
that? That's
within
kind of
9
strange.
months.
That 3 in the same band.
Yeah, within 9 within 9
May
months.
I ask what they died of?
2 heart attacks and a cancer. My drummer, Jimmy, he died of cancer. He was with us for probably about 25 years or so. He started with us in '96, '97, 20 years, and died in 2018, July 5th. And then we had a fiddle player. His name was Sam Rife, and he was with us 4 or 5 years, and he had a heart attack in 2019, 9 months after Jimmy died, and we had a backup vocalist, who died right before Jimmy did, and so like one after the other,
That must have been horrible for you, man.
it was terrible, and it put me in a really bad place, and everything kind of just fell apart,
Yeah.
and then earlier on, my keyboard player, we went on tour as Carnival of Soul. The last one nationally was 2012, and we did about 26 dates from here to Washington State. And Sean was supposed to go with us, but he had some personal tragedies too, and he couldn't go on tour. And when we came back, he had started working for a church in Port Charlotte and started playing contemporary music. And he asked me to join. So I did that. And so I was the guitar player for this church for about 10 years. And I showed up every Sunday. Didn't matter, for years, 8, 10 years, something like that. And I lost all of that, all of my dreams, I guess you would say, during that time. Everything fell apart that I always wanted, that dragon, that brass ring, that blue ribbon, that fame and fortune that you want to get. And then, as I was humbled and everything was taken away, um, you know, I learned that I didn't want that anymore.
Let me stop you for 1 second
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
you're a great musician,
Thank you.
killer voice, killer chops on the guitar. Did you start were your skills diminishing or were you doubting your own abilities? Were you in that kind of depression or was it like, did you knew you still had it? You were just waiting for the right opportunity.
You know, I know of the time frame, and I was always cognizant of that. Like, you have a certain window.
For stardom, you're talking about.
Yes, for
Yeah, you're
starting.
not a young man anymore.
Right.
We're, like right now, we're too old to be on
And
American Idol.
and because I wasn't mature enough to handle that, the opportunities did come, but they were either squandered, or just ignored, or no, I'm not going to do that because then I have to sell out, or whatever it was. Um, and then by the time and I would kept working on music, I kept kept putting out music, and making CDs, and each one got better and better and better. Um, and then here I am at an age that my expiration date as far as that has expired, but my learning and my in the process I was going through to become a better human, to be a better father, and a better musician, they kept increasing and
Sure.
getting better. And then as I stopped wanting the things that really weren't good for me, because I learned that I didn't handle them well. And as soon as I stopped wanting them and everything was taken away, and I wasn't bitter about it, all of a sudden, my relationship with my wife got better. My relationship with my friends got better. My family.
Is it safe to say that your relationship with God got better during this time?
Yes, it's very safe to say
Okay.
that.
So I must thank you for who I am today. And the boy that you once knew is the man you see today. The good man was a bad man, and the good man pays for the bad man. And all that's left is a sad man.
He put a lot of work into me, and I didn't really appreciate that, but I followed it,
Sure.
even sometimes inside me
Everybody's
reluctantly.
journey is different, man. Your journey, this is your journey. This is how it went down. Do you remember coming back now and like, because your current lineup is fantastic. First of all, let's talk about your current lineup.
Yes.
Because then I want to talk about like what it felt like when that band came back and you were now playing again. Like it must have been really fun.
It was an unbelievable
But let's start.
feeling.
So look, I know you're drummer,
Bert Parsley,
great guy.
amazing guy.
I just saw him Saturday. We played. He came up and showed me all the new improvements that are going on there. He always has such a nice, pleasant disposition about him.
Yes.
He always seems to be a nice, happy guy. He's a great drummer.
Yes. He is the only drummer that I felt comfortable with, without asking him to copy the drummer that, I spent so many years with. And I wouldn't for so many years after his death, for, and even the times that he was in the band that, he'd quit, he'd come back, I would never go out and look for somebody. I would wait. And so,
Yeah, right.
and
It's like a wed. It's like a marriage.
yeah,
man.
and that expiration date kept getting, I mean,
Yeah, I understand that.
and I kept waiting on him,
Right.
him,
Well, that's why Led Zeppelin, after John Bonham, they didn't want to play anymore.
When Bert came into my life, I was, I was given the chance to play a solo thing that I started doing right after COVID. This is after the tragedies happened in the band. My mom passed away, and my wife Kim was encouraging me to get back into music. And one of my best friends for 40 years was he played bass with me for 17 years in Carnival of Soul. And he was trying to entice me to come back. And so I said, all right. One of the things I always did is I recorded, band practices, whenever I had the chance. I had this, Tascam recorder, and I would record cover songs, and I had just a plethora of music. And I went to the studio that I recorded many records with, and I got basic tracks from all of my CDs, and I started I took out the guitars, I took out my voice, and I left the guys who had passed away and, in the basic tracks there. And I used that and I would record some covers and, next thing you know, I had enough music to do like a 3 or 4 hour show by myself. And I never played by myself ever. And it was something I had to prove to myself because I spent so much time relying on other people to do things for me. I never learned how to do those things properly myself. I always, delegated those things. And people would do them because they wanted to be a part of this cool thing until, either I self-destructed or something happened and I would drive them away. So I finally was able to do that. And, I bought the equipment that was necessary to just play these little small venues as a solo. And it it hit and I kept getting asked back. And so
you're good at it too. I mean, I caught some of your act at Twisted Fork on that little side stage.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're very talented, man.
Thank you, sir.
And people love it. I mean, you were playing great songs. You got a great voice.
I didn't know I could do all those things because I only did the things that my original music required of me and bands that were similar to that. So I never was able to use my voice in other ways. So I decided I'm going to do Chris Stapleton. I've never done country before. That was the very first song that
Which one?
Starting Over.
Great one.
Yeah, ironically,
Great one,
and when I felt like, oh my gosh, I can do that, then it was like, well, then I'll do this song, and I started.
Isn't it fun? Yeah, it's fun.
It was great.
Right. Then you're like at home practicing, you're like, oh shit, I can do all these songs, man. You're like, boom, 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 right?
And I just woodshedded for about a year, and until I was ready, that all the equipment that I bought that made it was getting.
Here's a good question. What do people say to you? Like, what people say? What does Chris's voice sound like? Like how would you describe your voice, man?
I always
to somebody that
I always hated my voice, and it just so happened that nobody could really sing my songs the way I did, and usually the band was like, "No, you're doing it," and so I kind of got stuck being the lead singer, and I always wanted to be the lead guitar player. I always wanted to be a guitar player.
But you can get bluesy with your voice, right?
I learned
you can get
how
soulful.
To. Yeah, I learned how to. Because it really was two things that allowed me to develop my voice in my later years was singing for the church, playing contemporary music and learning that I was no longer performing. I was leading a group of people into worship. And so you had to approach it differently. So my voice couldn't be aggressive.
Right.
I had to learn, to be able to sing in a way
It's a little sweeter.
That people would be able to sing along with.
Sure.
I learned that most people can't sing in standard 440, so I started tuning my guitar down a whole step, and it allowed people to sing a little more in church. It allowed my voice to develop the lower end. And that way, I wasn't straining to hit.
What great training that was, man. Think about it. You were going to school and you didn't realize it.
I didn't realize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the natural transition after I stopped working at the church, I started doing, the solo work, and I started picking all these eclectic songs, that were so different that it was a little bit for everybody, 8 to 80, so, and I guess I did them well enough where people would want to see it again.
How would you, so if someone said, what can they come to expect when they come to one of your solo shows? What would you say to them?
Don't expect Carnival of Soul. Don't expect, a genre of music that you have seen me in before, and that's going to be it. No, because I play country in my solo. I play rock, pop, blues, and just such a wide variety, and old stuff and newer
More family
songs.
friendly. So maybe the solo act is G, whereas the Carnival was a R rated.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Or maybe you're more like family friendly, all audiences, versus more mature.
Yeah, PG-13. And then when, you know, and as I learned how to read a room, you know, and read the demographic that's there, you know, I had enough music to be able to, you know, play this set of songs instead of this. And if the demographic was a little more my age or younger, I had songs that I could do, you know, in that manner.
You know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned on this show. I've been doing this for 2 years, and a lot of great musicians sat in that chair like you're sitting in. And one of the things that people always say is you got to learn to read the room. That's
Yeah.
like some of the best advice
Yes, it is.
that any musician could give. Like, you know, play to your audience.
Right.
You know, like now here in Florida, you know, there's a lot of 70-plus-year-old people.
Mhm.
So classic rock is always going to do well here.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it is.
You know, there's not a lot of young people, you know, in some of these venues. So, you know, you play the classic rock, you're going to be guaranteed you're going to do well. I want to talk about this CD you handed me. I'm going to.
Yeah, we got to go back to Bert too eventually.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Well, let's finish Bert now.
Yeah. All right. I got to tell you how that happened. I was doing my solo work at the Fork. Marcus finally gave me a date, and I went there.
Another great guy. Marcus is Bert's brother.
Yes.
And he currently is on tour with JJ Gray, and he's in the Mofo.
Yeah.
He plays the trumpet. He was on this show.
Yes, and he also has recorded with Carnival of Soul and done some shows with us.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Great musician.
We're kind of like, you know, a little side thing for him. And, you know, when some time clears up and he's not doing so much, I hope, you know, to get him back into the fold and do some more work because he's brilliant. And he's taught me a lot of things, you know, musically. You know, he a little bit of theory and thing, you know, and he's made suggestions to me about my voice and how I record it that are just priceless. And I can't wait to be able to, you know, get more of his advice, which I never took before. You know, I always did it my way. And I love the people that are around me that are giving me heartfelt advice because they believe in the music and they want the best, you know. And so when I finally learned how to, you know, serve the song and serve the listener and not my ego, that's when things change.
Is it safe to say that this is the Christopher D. Corridino version 2? Like 2.0?
Oh my
Like you've been rebooted? Huh?
Maybe
The upgraded
I would
version?
just like to say I finally grew up. I would just like to say that, you know, and to all the people that were patient with me during that process and hung in there and still loved me.
So who's on bass?
Okay. Bass is Chuck Cantasano.
Okay. Another Italian.
Oh yeah. And he is a phenomenal musician, writer. He's been in local bands. I've known him since he was like 19, 20 years old. As soon as I moved here, he's one of the first people that I was able to develop a friendship with and saw him go through so many different bands. He has this unbelievable ear. And I've done a lot of recording in his home studio, which is Storm Room Studios. So if you look up Chuck on Facebook, give him a ring. He's amazing. And I finally convinced him to join Carnival of Soul with our first comeback show. He was the guitar player for that when Marcus was playing with us. But how that whole process started was Bert was told, "Hey, this guy's out here singing. You should take a listen, I guess." You know, and he came out and he stalked me, you know, a couple shows, and him and this and a guy named Paul Desio, they approached me after I think maybe the second or third time they saw me. And Bert said, you know, "I'd love to play some music with you." And at that time, you know, PTSD, and you know, I never planned on being in a band again. You know, it just I've been through too much, and I was enjoying this process of, you know, being able to do it myself, and because I had something to prove, and you know, once again that inner voice kind of convinced me, you know, give him a ring. And so I said no to him when he asked, you know, and Bert was, you know, what? And I didn't know he owned a Twisted Fork. I didn't know anything about him. And I said no. And then I think maybe another time he approached me and I said no again. And then finally, you know, we just started texting back and forth. And this went on for months. And I kind of, you know, listened to what he had, you know, played in his youth, what his influences were. And he just sounded like somebody I wanted to play music with. but I was apprehensive. Could a drummer do what Jimmy Bones did? And I had to tell myself.
Did you ever tell him that, like, later on, that maybe, like, hey, the reason why I was hesitant is because...
Oh yeah, he knows everything.
Okay, he knows the whole story.
But here was the difference, though. When I finally decided to do it, I made a conscious decision to say, listen, you're never going to have Mr. Bones again. He's gone. So you got to give somebody a chance, and, quit doing that to yourself.
Right.
And so when I gave Bert the music, he was floored by it. And Bones was an amazing, amazing drummer. He was, locally a legend, I would say. And I was very blessed to have him. Many of our age group and older know who he is, because he had established himself as a drummer, years even before he joined me in 96, 97. But when I told Bert, yeah, let's get together. And so I called up my my bass player, Daniel, who I've known since Germany. We went in the military together, and he joined in the band in 2006 and been my bass player until, he exited. And so we started that process, and I just finally told Bert, it's like, thank you for, honoring the songs the way you have, but I'm just going to let you know up front that you don't have to play every note. You don't have to do everything that Bones did. I want you to feel it. And I don't want a Bones. I want a Bert.
Sure.
And
that's the best thing you could have said to him.
And it's the first time I ever said that,
Yeah.
and
because drummers feel a lot of pressure. You know what I'm saying?
And he embraced it, and he brought me back to a band situation and be able to, put this original music out again. And when we debuted at the Fork, and it was November of, I think it was 23 possibly. We played in front of about 2,000 people because Marcus put us in front of opening up for a Journey tribute band that we're very, very, very good friends with now.
We've done that too.
Yes.
Jacked up.
Yes.
So you get that audience.
Yes. And I think Marcus knew if we won that audience over, that it would stay together.
Real quick, how did you feel? Were you nervous?
Yeah. But for the first time, I'd been nervous all my life. But for the first time, it wasn't a nervousness that made me apprehensive, made me, I wasn't frightened. I was actually excited, and it was weird. And then since every show since then, whether it be in Carnival of Soul, our cover band, which has the same members of Carnival of Soul, One Eye Shut, or, I'm the guitar player for John Salloway and the Regulators.
Well, we want to talk about all these.
Yeah. Well, I'm no longer nervous. I take the stage and I embrace it, and,
sure.
It's
your inner rock star comes out. You have fun,
and I really do for the first time.
So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna talk about this CD you handed me, Carnival. So real quickly, we're gonna go through every track. Just give me a couple words on each song.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start off with the opening track, "Sip the Coffee."
Sipping a Coffee. That is an instrumental. Me and Sean Bryan wrote together, and it's an incredible piece of music that we were just so excited about. And then right after that, writing that, we wrote another song together called Flawless, and they have always been together.
Yep, Flawless is number 2.
We've never played those two songs without one or the other. So they're usually a show opener, and they just flow together. I even created a video on YouTube that that starts and finishes with both those songs, and it's like, so it's an 8-minute piece of music, and it features a lot of the old footage of Carnival of Soul, some live things, because I was blessed enough to be able to record Mr. Bones playing the drums to both of those songs, and that recording of that video recording is actually the same one that's on the CD, so I was able to sync that.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I look forward to listening to it.
Yes.
So the third song is in honor of 9/11. It's called "Beautiful Bird." Tell us quickly about that one.
That was about that tragedy in 9/11 in 2001. I wrote it a short time after that, and it didn't really develop for quite a few years. And then I made a video to accompany it, and it shows all the tragedy. But once again, I don't politically say things outright. I use it metaphorically. And so if I didn't put the parentheses in honor of 9/11, a lot of folks wouldn't even know it was about that.
Okay. Fair enough.
And the only reason I did that was because, like you, I'm sure that affected you, and it affected me, and it really changed the whole landscape,
Sure.
of our country. Um, and so, it's always meant a lot. And that song, every year around that time, it gets passed around, and you see the views and the clicks and all that, happen. So it's one of those songs that I wrote before that CD was out, and it was just a single that wasn't on anything. So I finally put it on
Cool.
that one.
Something Real, track number 4.
Something Real and The Power of Youth. Those two songs, all of this was done in the Vibe recording studio with Chad Zucchegna, who was a prodigy of Anthony Iannucci from Unity Gain, who was a part of mastering our first CD as Last Rites, second CD as Carnival of Soul, and I did my entire third CD with him, Riding the Karma Train, which was the CD right before that. And his protege went off and had his own studio, and I recorded a full CD with him. Those two songs are the only ones on that CD that I did in Chuck Cantisano's studio in Stormroom Studios. So you can see how talented he is to be able to turn a home studio sound that can match, a fully accredited, studio in Fort Myers that not only is a full studio, it's also a school.
Yeah.
So-
No, technology today has gotten better.
Yes.
Our debut original that we just talked about in the green room, we recorded it in our keyboard player's home studio. Then it got mixed at the pro studio, and then it got mastered at another place in Wisconsin. So it went from this to this
I
to
know.
this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit.
Isn't that
Like,
a
when we got it back, I was like, that's us.
Yeah, that's a great process, isn't it? It sure
All right,
is.
quickly, moving along. Forgetting is track 6.
Forgetting Me.
Forgetting Me.
That was a leftover from the Riding the Karma Train sessions. So all the tracks were recorded at Unity Gain, but we remixed and mastered it at the Vibe, and it just felt like that song deserved, to be put on something because it was like
Okay,
just a leftover.
cool.
So
Sweet Jasmine.
that's an interesting story. I wrote that after the Sports Illustrated came out with the article about Michael Vick and the 52 dogs that were taken away from him, during that whole situation, and rehabilitated. 2 of them were euthanized, and these small little groups of people who just love animals, they fought the ASPCA and PETA to not euthanize those 50 dogs, and all these little groups came together and saved them all.
Cool.
And one of them, she made the cover of Sports Illustrated. It moved me so much. I wrote a song about her.
Is that the dog's
And-
name?
and- yeah, it's
Jasmine.
Sweet Jasmine. Yep. And I wrote it in her perspective. And so it's like coming from her eyes. And when I finished it, I sent it to the people who not only rehabilitated her, but the people who currently were, I don't want to say they're owners because it was more of a fostering situation. But we had set up, they were so moved by it. It took them a while to get with me, but as soon as they received the song, the weekend that they received the song, the people who were watching, who were fostering her, went on a vacation for the first time, and the person who was watching them let her out, and she got hit by a car and died.
Oh, Christ.
And and they didn't have the heart to tell me. So it took a few months, but when they finally did, they came down from Baltimore, and we met, and they gave me a lot of pictures and things like that of Jasmine. And it was very, very emotional.
Yeah, I can
'cause
imagine.
I wanted to meet
Right.
her so bad.
Yeah.
And that was the intent, was for me to,
I take it you're a dog lover.
I do. I love
Yeah.
animals, period.
Gotcha.
And animals were, just a little side note, what helped me be able to be better to humans.
Yeah, I agree. I have a
Yeah.
dog. It makes me a better person.
Yeah.
So 10 cents flat.
10 cents flat. Interesting. That was a song that was started off by our keyboard player, and 10 cents flat has absolutely nothing to do with the lyrics or anything like that of the song. It was referring to one of our instruments in the studio being 10 cents flat, and we had to use Melodyne to fix it. And I couldn't find a title for it.
It's a cool title.
Yeah, and somehow
cool. Starting the cycle.
Another one that when I met my keyboard player Sean, the intro to that song, we met in the music stand in Port Charlotte, and I was in there with getting my son Christopher one of his piano lessons with a local teacher, and I was, like I do when he's in there, I would fiddle around on the pianos, guitars, whatever. And this guy came in, and he opens up the door, he goes and sits behind a piano, and he plays this unbelievable, just incredible little piano line. And it made me go, and then I kind of just got off the piano that I was on and grabbed a guitar, and he was going through some things, and he just started playing, and I started accompanying him on the guitar. And before he left the music stand, I gave him a Riding the Karma Train CD, and I said, please, call me if you're interested in playing music. And he had no intention of doing that whatsoever. But as soon as he popped in the CD and heard it, he called me, and he's been my keyboard player.
Dude, that's a great story. That's a great story.
And he is a phenomenal
I love
singer.
that. So the bottom line is you're surrounding yourself with such great people, great musicians, right?
Better than myself.
That's what I feel like. Like, I always tell people, get musicians and people that are better than you and circle yourselves around them. You know
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying? That's my
And not
mantra.
only musicians, but
It's people, like good-hearted people.
yeah, their heart, their
Yeah.
soul, they're
Drifting slowly.
instrumental. It was such a cool piece of music. When it was finished, I tried fitting lyrics to it, and our drummer just said, just leave it as an instrumental. And I'm like, that's 2 instrumentals on a CD? That's unheard of. And
It's jazzy.
yeah, and we just left it and didn't bother.
Starting, wait a minute. I can't read. Satan smiled.
Satan Smiled. That is a tongue-in-cheek political song that I wrote metaphorically, that I will not say who it's about or anything like that. But once again, using words to just create a landscape, I guess, of the content I'm trying to say. And I did it in a way that people, whoever listened to it, could interpret it their own way. I know what it means, but everybody else who listens to it is going to get a different meaning out of it. So that's,
Blind.
Blind. Oh, I love that song. Just another one of those songs that I really feel has a real nice commercial appeal without sacrificing musical integrity, without, being a sellout song or whatever. That was my old way of thinking of things. And just another song that me and Sean wrote together, one of his little pieces and parts that I would take, and he'd have like 20 or 30 of them. And the process was, give me 3 of your best little chops lately, and I would take 3 and I'd put them together, find that stack of lyrics that I've been writing forever, find the good content, find, great words, and match them up,
man.
and they always worked.
Dirt.
That's been around since the Last Rites days. structurally hasn't changed much. Same lyrics. Just one of those heavy, dark, but way bizarre songs that that does not have commercial appeal, but for some reason is just one of those songs that kind of sticks with you. And we decided to put it on there because, as far as balance goes, we have a lot of lighter material in that one, and then we were always known for as being a heavy band, and I wanted to keep some aggression. So that was one of the ones
Cool.
that we kept. So,
And finally, the last track is All That's Left.
that is an emotional song, and a little bit revealing of the old me, kind of like a testimony of who I was and who I am now, and just basically saying, this is who I was, and I'm going to tell you about it. And it's only me, just a little bit of percussion, a little bit of bass, and it's basically just a piano track.
I look forward to hearing this, man, when I get home. I'm going to play it.
Yeah, I appreciate
So
it.
as we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about a few more things.
Sure.
Let's talk about John.
John.
John was on the show. Did you see his episode
Yes.
with me?
Yes.
Great guy.
He is.
I mean, super nice,
He
cool
is
guy, right?
He is family.
Yeah.
He is a brother.
He actually invited me to come visit him when next time I'm in Nashville, and I was thinking about going to see the Foo Fighters in August.
August 14th.
Yeah, I was thinking
15th is the Foo Fighters show. We'll be there.
Are you going to be there?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Salloway's band, John Salloway and the Regulators. Excuse me. Edit that. When he comes down to Florida, Bert is his bass player.
No, Bert's his drummer, I thought.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yes. His drummer, Paul Desio, is his bass player, who did some
So
time.
these are your guys?
Yeah, basically. Paul was with Carnival of Soul until his schedule just got so crazy. Chuck stepped in to help us out. And me and our backup vocalist, Whitney, who is the lead singer of One Eye Shut, amazing vocalist. And she sings backup vocals for John, for Carnival of Soul. And in Carnival of Soul, she sings a lot of lead.
So when John comes to Florida, he grabs you guys to back him up.
And we've developed such a sound together, and have made him feel so comfortable with us. And we've embraced his music because I love it. I love
It's like
his
Dylan
music.
and the band, dude.
It's like if the Beatles moved to the States right before Sgt. Pepper's and landed in Nashville.
Cool.
He's
a real talent, no doubt.
He is amazing.
Yeah.
And when Bert and Paul were playing with him for several years, and when they lost their guitar player, who did the work when he came down to Florida, when they lost him, he asked Bert, who would you suggest? And Bert was just so gracious enough to say, I won't play with anybody except Dino. And John was like, well, do you think he'll really say yeah? And he's got the Carnival of Soul thing. And John, called me up on the phone, and before the sentence was even out, I said yes.
Yeah,
and he's like, yes, what? And I'm like, of course. Yeah.
So you're doing your solo stuff. You're doing the One Eye Shut.
Yes, sir.
And then when John comes, you play.
Yes.
So how can people find out, like, what's your social? Like, how do they find out about your schedule? Like, what's the deal?
I'm just be honest. I am terrible about social media, because after COVID and stuff, I just, I kind of turned it all off. And when Facebook became more of a, this keyboard warrior face this keyboard warrior,
Right.
I got off it completely. So it's taken me a while to get back, but I'm working on, when I do use the social medias, I'll post, when Carnival of Soul is playing, when One Eye Shut. But mostly what I do is, John will prepare an event, I'll share it. So if you go to, John Salloway and the Regulators page on Facebook, Instagram, go to his website, you'll find out all his dates. When you, One Eye Shut on
One Eye Shut
Facebook-
just played not too long ago, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've played Gators in Port Charlotte. We've played the White Elephant in Englewood Beach.
Sure.
And we're a cover band that has a very eclectic mix once again, and we take songs like you wouldn't expect that were rock, they're not rock, and then we turn them into that. Yeah. So
I love that.
And it focuses on our backup vocalist for the other bands. This is her. She fronts this, and she deserves every bit of it because she's amazing. And, she does do a lot in Carnival of Soul. She does sing lead in John Salloway's songs, so I mean, this was just a way for her to do more, and allowed me to be a guitar player, kind of the things that I like, that I like in John Salloway. He lets me be me. And, I approach Bert, he lets me be me. He tells me if I need to change something, but he lets me be my style, my way of playing.
So as we wrap up, Bert did ask me to ask you to talk about your capo.
Oh, that jerk.
So there's a quick story there?
Yeah, a real quick story. One Eye Shut has been a very, very laborious project for me because in my whole life, my whole career, I've never been in 3 bands in a solo act. And it was 40 new songs after I just accomplished 40 songs with Salloway and got comfortable. Then I got involved in this thing, and it was a little more than I could chew. I mean, it was a task, and at times I was behind everybody else. And so when we finally did start playing, I was still in my head a little bit, still the nerves came back for this project, because it was such unfamiliar territory, and we were taking songs that I never heard, never listened to before in my life, and turn them into a style of music that I've been playing all my life. But there was so many, and Whitney has so many different key pitches. I have to use a capo, or I have to switch guitars 3 or 4 times. So I just started learning how to use a capo. And one of those moments was, we're about to play a song and I'm freaking out. I couldn't find my capo because I always keep it on my mic stand. And I'm like freaking out. We can't do this. And I'm panicking. And they all look at me and they point to my neck of my guitar, and it's on the headstock.
We've all been there, man.
Yeah. Embarrassing, but it's a good laugh.
Yeah.
And I can laugh at it too. Those guys were real patient with me. And I think now that band is at the point where we're starting to show a lot of our abilities.
Well, it's funny. I can tell you're having fun on that project because you're just smiling, ear to ear right now.
I love it.
You love it.
I love all 3. I love all 4 things that I do. I'm blessed that I finally, in this part of my life, I get to play music full time. My wife embraces it.
Cool.
She enjoys it and lets me be me. And, and she is just a support system I've never had. My children, they support me. It's just, everything's in a great place right now.
On that positive note, we're going to end the show.
Mr. Kirk,
thank you so much for coming in, Dino. Man, you're a pleasure.
Oh,
I've been after getting you on here for about a year, and our schedules made it happen. So
yes, sir.
Thanks for coming.
I'm sorry I was so elusive.
No, man, you're a busy guy, but we finally got you. It's going to be a great episode. People can see it in a couple of days. We edit it up.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll see you. I'm going to listen to your CD, and we'll see you live one day.
All right, jacked up.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, before we go.
Yes, sir.
Go,
all right.
I have a gift to give you. I already gave it to you.
Yeah, I got a jacked up t-shirt.
I gave you a jacked up t-shirt.
And I'm going to take a picture of me, and I'm going to put it on my Facebook page. And as soon as the episend comes out, I'll post it and I'll wear that shirt.
I appreciate it. That's very cool.
Yes, sir. You guys
have Carnival of Soul merch?
We do. And I should have brought that one.
Don't worry about it.
But I'll get you one.
I'll rock your shirt on one of my shows, man.
Sounds great.
Is that a deal?
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Today's sponsor is Encore Live, Sarasota Bradenton's #1 destination for live entertainment.